Okay, so we're going to do a couple of derivative problems that are from the study guide that have to do with combining the derivative of a trigonometry expression with, in this case, in both cases, the quotient rule. So these come directly from your study guide, and what we're going to do is I'll start with the first one, number 20. I've got f of x is equal to cosecant 3x to the fifth over 3x to the third minus 5. Now, if I were to look on my chart of derivatives, I would see that the derivative of a cosecant is negative cosecant. So the derivative of cosecant u is negative cosecant u cotangent u times the derivative of the inside, because you got to use the chain rule. So this is going to end up equaling, okay, negative cosecant of 3x to the fifth over 3x cubed minus 5, okay, times cotan of 3x to the fifth over 3x to the third minus 5, times, right, times the derivative of this, which is going to end up being, that's where the quotient rule comes in. So, so let's go ahead and say multiplied times 3x to the third minus 5 times the derivative of the top, which is 15x to the fourth, minus the top intact, which is 3x to the fifth, times the derivative of the bottom, which is 9x squared, all over 3x to the third minus 5 squared. So it's this really long thing. It's this times this, right? Okay, so now, you're actually done once you do that. But that might not be the answer that you see in your, if this is actually a multiple choice instead of constructor response, you may not see it that way. So one of the things that we can do over here is we can multiply the 3x to the fifth times 9x squared, and we can multiply this 15x to the fourth into this. So we're going to, now I'm going to make this really long again. So we're going to say that this is the same thing as negative cosecant of 3x to the fifth over 3x cubed minus 5 times cotangent of 3x to the fifth over 3x to the third minus 5 times, and now we're going to go ahead and multiply all of this stuff together on top here. So that looks like 3x to the third times 15x to the fourth. 3 times 15 is going to be 45, so I've got 45x to the seventh minus, and I think that's 75x to the fourth minus, and then 3 times 9 is 27, and I'm going to add those exponents, x to the seventh, all over 3x to the third minus 5 squared, okay? And then I can simplify this. I can do 45x to the seventh minus 27x to the third, x to the seventh, and that's going to be 18x to the seventh, minus 75x to the fourth, right? And so I'm going to end up with this portion of it here being, looks like negative 75x to the fourth plus 18x to the seventh over 3x cubed minus 5 squared. And I can even, I think I can even, you know, factor out, looks like 3x to the fourth. So you'll end up with 3x to the fourth times negative 25 plus 6x to the seventh, all over 3x to the third minus 5 squared, right? And remember, that's after this, so that the whole thing is involved. So let me go ahead and, boy, I wish I knew how to do like a mass erase on this program. I've got to learn how to do that. That's my thing this week, okay? So I'm going to erase all of this. Oh, this sucks. I don't even know how to make this nub bigger. So, how was your weekend, y'all? Yeah, you ready for the benchmarks that are coming up? Yeah. Yeah, what did you think of Mardi Gras? Pretty cool, huh? All right. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So you're going to end up with, and you can remember, you can put all this on the top of your thing. So you've got your minus, and then you got your cosecant of 3x to the fifth over 3x to the third minus 5 times cotangent of 3x to the fifth over 3x to the third minus 5, right? And you're going to multiply that times, what did we say? 3x to the fourth times negative 25 plus 6x cubed all over 3x to the third minus 5 squared. And you never know how far they're going to simplify things when you are looking at the multiple choice section of the test. So you've got to be able to use all your algebra skills and stuff like that to simplify this stuff. Okay, so that's how you do that. Cosecant, a little bit more difficult than sine, right? So cosecant is lots of steps. You've got your cosecant times the cotangent, and then you've got to do your quotient rule thing. Now, the difference between that one and this next one is that the next one, so the first one that we did, your cosecant came on the outside, right? The first one, the cosecant came on the outside. The second one, the sine is on the inside, okay? So if we're going to do by the way, I said f of x equals this. This should say f prime of x should equal all that other stuff. I would have gotten subtracted points. Just remember that f prime of x is what all this stuff was. Anyway, so now we're going to say that if y equals 4x to the fourth, 4x to the fourth plus 5 over sine of 4x squared, okay, then dy over dx, and we're just going to go ahead and we're going to use our quotient rule, equals the sine of 4x squared times whatever the derivative of the top is, right, which is going to be 16x cubed, minus, and if we look here, we're going to see that the derivative of sine is cosine, which, you know what, I'm pretty sure you guys have that memorized anyway. So minus cosine of 4x squared times that intact, 4x to the fourth plus 5, all over sine of 4x squared squared, which, by the way, will also sometimes be written as sine squared of 4x squared, okay? And that's it. Now, you can definitely tweak this a little bit. You could probably factor out 4x to the third from these and simplify this a little bit, but this is essentially the answer. So, really these things where you're doing the derivative of trigonometric expressions is not super, super hard. It's just, it can get really complicated, especially once you start having to simplify using the Pythagorean identity and stuff like that. But that's something that we're going to be looking at later on. So, that was number 20.